You got Storm and Iron Man in a horror movie. Kind of ironic. Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with episode 7 of Halloween Horror Movie Reviews 5, and today's episode is going to be for the 2003 crime horror thriller GOTHIKA, which was directed by, where was it? One of them. Matthew Kalzovitz. Directed by Matthew Kalzovitz. So, what is the plot for GOTHIKA? Well, our main protagonist, Dr. Miranda Gray, played by Halle Berry, is a psychiatrist who works in a penitentiary in a mental institution sector. She is then married with Dr. Douglas Gray, the chief of the department where Dr. Pete Graham also works. Chloe Sava, played by Penelope Cruz, a patient of Dr. Miranda formerly abused by her stepfather, claims that she's frequently raped by the devil in her cell. So after leaving the asylum on a stormy night one night, Dr. Miranda has a car accident. Then when she wakes up, she apparently finds out she's a patient at the institution because she's been accused of a horrible crime and has no memory of the incident. Yeah, so how was this film made? Well, this was the fourth feature film done by Dark Castle Entertainment, and GOTHIKA was the first to boast a high-profile leading cast in the company's largest scale production at the time, and had a budget of approximately $40 million. Berry was partly inspired to take the role because apparently her mother was a nurse and worked in a psychiatric hospital for decades. When it came to shooting the movie, filming would take place in Montreal, Quebec, in Canada in the spring 2003, and when shooting Halle Berry's scenes, it had to be halted for several weeks because Robert Downey Jr. had filmed a tense scene with Berry and accidentally grabbed and twisted her arm and accidentally broke it. So they halted it for a few weeks because of that incident alone. But then the filming resumed, and once the film resumed and was officially completed and shot and marketed, then pretty much not only was it GOTHIKA was actually the second film by the company to be co-distributed by both Clement Pictures and Warner Brothers, because they also did 13 Ghosts 2 years before this, which we'll also be getting a review. But yeah. Then after GOTHIKA was finally completed and marketed, GOTHIKA would be released theatrically in the United States on November 21st, 2003, literally the Friday before American Thanksgiving. The film grossed at the box office, pretty successful now, warned $41 million worldwide, but it did not get good reviews from critics. Now, as for my reaction to GOTHIKA, well, I remember seeing this film one time and hardly remembering much of it, but I gave it a rewatch, and how was it now? Well, I thought this movie was actually, not bad, I have to say. I wouldn't say it's a great film, but it's enjoyable at best. I can admit that. If you approach this film without expectations, with an open mind, you'll be kind of entertained. It's a tight, disturbing, psychological, supernatural thriller, which does get a little predictable at times, but it has some frightening imagery and a few good solid scares. But it's not a film for viewers that would probably have a hard time trying to focus on it or just wanting straightforward answers. Don't pay attention. If viewers don't really pay attention to much of what happens in the film, it kind of just feels like another dumb ghost story at times. This is one of those films that personally does kind of deserve a little more credit for that whole thing alone, in a way. It's not really a ghost story at all, but it's not much of a ghost story per se. It has ghost elements, but it's not really like a ghost film. It relies on a film that relies heavily on convention, but we have water imagery, lightning storms, eerie music, and light or dark or vision stuff. They're used purposely to a good effect, and you have the good flickering lights. The ghosts have electromagnetic effects and ghost films, but here it's how they're used and set up as part of the science versus supernatural theme. This is pretty much one of those movies that or some people wouldn't like it because it can get outrageous or ridiculous at times, but the plot is like the plot's not based off another film, and the plot is original, and it does give some chills and thrills. So there's some enjoyable things to be found in the movie, and there's obviously some plot holes, but the camera work and cinematography is still great, and the film did manage to keep my attention, and pretty much. And the lighting is also a pretty great example. Like there's some fine like light heavy. The use of light can be heavy handed in this film, but it is still used effectively for the film's themes. And like yeah, and the lighting was actually kind of pretty to look at. Now, how does our film start off? Well, we start off with Dr. Miranda Gray, who's a psychiatrist in this rural Western penitentiary, penitentiary in Connecticut. She works as a psychiatrist there and has a decent enough life, has a decent husband, and is well liked by the staff. One night on her way home, she crashed her car on a country road to avoid hitting a young woman. Then, when she sees the young woman pretty much tortures her mind, and then when she wakes up, she finds out that she's an inmate at the same penitentiary where she works. And she's receiving treatment for her colleague, Dr. P. Graham, played by Robert Downey Jr. And P reveals that her husband, Douglas, was a victim of a brutal axe murder, and she's a suspect of it. Then, while Miranda attempts to now has to kind of adjust to life as an inmate, but is haunted by visions of the young woman she saw the night of the car accident, and then gets attacked by her apparition during a shower, and this woman carves the phrase "not alone" to Miranda's arm, and hospital staff presumes she's self-harming. So when it comes to the acting of this movie, the acting for both Barry and Downey Jr., this is kind of like, I think this is kind of both some of their most underrated performances. Barry plays Miranda with a slightly fragile, strong-willed mind that does not lower to most typical sole survivor female horrors, and the actress does exclude confidence and determination, keeps Miranda as a character you want to root for. And Barry's chemistry with co-star Downey Jr. was pretty much the smug but compassionate fellow psychiatrist who contrasts with the straight woman that Miranda is. But Downey Jr. plays a character as an intelligent man who is at first skeptical of his former colleagues' claim of innocence, but the occurrences grow stronger throughout the narrative when he begins to believe Miranda might not be as insane as he and others had thought. And Gothica, it's not like a campy horror film, it's actually a dark horror film. Both in storyline and visual display, it's often raining throughout most of the film, gives an easy way to impose cliche thunder or lightning in moments, and yet the buzzing, flickering, and fluorescent lights with the psychiatric cells that give you this cliche and effectively dirty and uncomfortable feeling, with B-grade horror films. Gothica is a good example of many classic horror elements together with this good old-fashioned murder mystery. This was made by a studio that was producing remakes of 13 Ghosts or House on Haunted Hill. And this was back in the time they did started to do original stuff like the shit called Ghost Ship. This came out a year after Ghost Ship, but even this is a better film than Ghost Ship. Gothica is not really a standard conventional horror film. It's not about a group of people being killed off one by one. Halle Berry in this film, she kept up the terror without seeming to burn out or become tired, and the range of emotion is displayed by this other actor named John Carroll Lynch. They also do make the film a bit of a joy with the performances, right there. Penelope Cruz, as much little scenes as she gets in the movie, she's also quite good in some of the scenes she has, how she goes from one emotional extreme to the other. Cruz and Barry in this film, they're respectively patient psychiatrists in high security prison for the criminally insane. The gothic environment of the facility, it's not meant to be realistic, but it's surreal. And the effect does work. And from the first time you see the place, you kind of question its own reality, and it manipulates mood through cinematographic techniques. So during Miranda's time at the psychiatric place, she bumps into this fellow inmate named Chloe Sava, who we saw at the beginning of the movie being interrogated, that Miranda was interrogating. Right there. And one night, she saw Chloe being raped and glimpsed at a tattoo of a soul on the perpetrator's chest. And the guards, when she tries to tell the guards this, they don't believe her. And as time's passing, she's regaining memories of the car accident, then identifies the mysterious woman as Rachel, the daughter of her superior, Dr. Phil Parsons, who died in apparent suicide a few years before this events of this movie. Then one night, Miranda gets attacked by Rachel's ghost and escapes the hospital. She returns to her home and observes the crime scene, and it triggers vivid memories of Miranda committing Douglas's murder. So after escaping and returning to her home, Miranda goes to Douglas's rural farmhouse in Rhode Island in hopes of finding clues. And when she finds a barn cellar, she finds a bloodstained mattress and some sedatives, restraints, and video recording equipment. One of the tapes, she ends up seeing a snuff film story by Douglas himself, and it shows him raping, torturing, and murdering a young woman. But just as she's viewing all this, police then arrive and Miranda's arrested. And after finding one of Douglas's victims, Tracy Seaver, is still alive in the barn, and pretty much making her a suspect, Miranda realizes that Rachel possessed her to carry out the act and avenge Rachel's own murder by Douglas. This is a film that, at first it starts off like it's going to be a possession film, right there, where you have settings like the creepy asylum and the dark forbidding atmosphere and the promising story development and heaps of mystery and the backstory and stuff. But then about 2/3 through the film, it becomes more of a crime thriller, and the mystical aspect then kind of goes out the window. Right there. So I like the whole change in kind of genre. At first you're a possession horror film, then you become a crime thriller film. I do like the kind of little genre change right there. The effects do take a backseat here for the most part, and they're pretty fine when they show up. And you have this perfect level of tension and some excellent nerve-shredding set pieces, like the scene with the solitary confinement, and the escape sequence, they're pretty well-defined scenes, and they're pretty well-shot moments, where it first looks like Miranda's having suicidal behavior in the solitary confinement area, but she's actually being possessed into basically attacking herself. And here, I really like that kind of well-shot moment, or when she's hiding, she has to kind of hide in the pool and stuff. Right there, that's also a pretty great moment right there. Or when she's being attacked in the whole shower area, the act of self-harm, and when she gets not alone carved into her arm. Those are all pretty well shot moments. Right there. I think Halle Berry does a decent performance in those scenes. The direction of the movie, it is pretty reasonable. There's some interesting camera spins, there's some zooms, or whenever Halle's being visited, one scene, the music is definitely right. It's not overbearing, and it does deliver the shocks the director requires with the camera work. The ghost in this movie, now, when it comes to the ghost, there's times when I feel like they were trying to just copy Samara from The Ring with this ghost or something like that. But her design's not too bad, and I'll admit that. At least they do well making the ghost leaving you in a state of suspense for some period of time. So at least they don't make her it's not she's just crawling out of something, or no, they actually do something unique with the ghost. The ghost is not the antagonist. Anyway, you kind of find out that the ghost is a victim of the real antagonist, that's when it kind of goes and changes the whole mystery genre. When you find out the ghost was one of the real antagonist's earlier victims and was possessing Miranda to get an act of revenge on her attacker. In a way. Right there. So I like that whole little genre change right there. It's one of those it's still not that great of a film. It's not a whole scare stuff audio movie. Right there, no. But it does still kind of employ some loud sounds and some surprises to kind of startle the viewer. You do know it's going to happen any moment, so you're still at the edge of your seat. And, when it happens, you can't... it does kind of provide a bit of a jump in the viewer. Right there. There's some times when the scares aren't too effective, but there's times when it's truly effective and surprising. Some of the well-shot scares are the sequence in the shower, or the road accident scene in the beginning that kind of sets off the whole events of the film, or what else can I think of? Or the solitary confinement sequence, or the very finale of the movie set in the prison. Like those are some pretty well shot horror like moments right there, and they do kind of make the film. There's some problems I have with the film, but it's honestly just not too bad. I do like the genre change, and I do like the chemistry between Downey Jr. and Barry in this film. Like Barry in this film right here. Sorry guys, I'm just lost in thought for a second. Now, anyways, now we get on to the finale right here, and this is where it's really cements itself as a crime thriller. So right here, after Miranda is arrested, she gets incarcerated to a county jail, and that jail, she once again tries to call Graham. Graham doesn't believe her, and tries getting them to call the sheriff, so she can talk to Sheriff Bob Ryan, but at first he's kind of out, but the cops allow him to come in and talk to her when he gets back. So Miranda then speaks to Sheriff Bob Ryan when he does get back. They're we kind of saw in an earlier scene, and he's Douglas's best friend, about the belief of Rachel's suicide being staged and a second perpetrator being involved, because we find out that Miranda's husband's kind of in on all the evil acts and Miranda got possessed by one of his victims to get revenge. Then, using her expertise as the psychiatrist, she then immediately constructs a psychological profile of the second perpetrator and realizes it's literally the sheriff himself, Bob Ryan, who then pretty much attempts to inject her with a sedative. In a struggle, she tears out his shirt and reveals the soul tattoo on his chest. And then she turns the syringe on Ryan that Ryan's about to use on her before fleeing. So Bob Ryan is now in a drug state because the sedative got injected into him. He still pursues her and tells her that Rachel is their first victim, and he and Douglas pretty much were working together to basically be murdering rapists. That, in a way, kind of a rapist duo. Rachel's apparition appears though, and Ryan does try to shoot at it, which honestly would not work because his apparition is a hallucinated ghost. But Ryan shoots at it, and an explosion then sets him ablaze, and then he's killed. Miranda then shoots to burn Ryan to death. Then Pete, though, who had realized Miranda was telling the truth earlier, he arrives to save her, and it kind of says this quiet sorry, that right there had been a waste of potential, where, really, the whole finale, I wish Pete did show up in the finale, kind of aided Miranda. That would have been way better. Not just have him absent most of the finale, and then just arrive just as our twist villain Ryan is dead. He should have actually showed up way earlier and actually aided Miranda. Maybe he could have been the one to kill Sheriff Ryan. Instead, I think I would have liked that better. Right there, that was some wasted potential. And when it comes to the sheriff character, it's a really shock this guy's really evil, because there's an earlier scene when they're interrogating Miranda about Douglas's death. The way this guy acts during it, this guy already seems evil. Just the way he sounds, this guy definitely does not seem like a good guy. They don't really try to hide that. So that was a bit of a problem. So it wasn't really surprising that this guy turned out to be Douglas's partner. Right there. And honestly, I'm not surprised Douglas was really actually apparently evil either, because when you do see him and Halle Berry seen together in the beginning, the way he smooches her, this guy does not sound very right. Something seems a little off about this dude. But oh well, so, and usually a lot of Dark Castle films have tendencies of ending on downer notes, but this one, though, this is one of the few that ends on a decent note. Because we get to a year later, Miranda's now free to clear charges, Chloe's also free to clear charges, and they're walking on a sidewalk. Then Chloe leaves, and Miranda sees this young boy on the road that's about to be struck by a fire truck, but apparently The fire truck passes right through him, and she realizes he's only a ghost. And fails to notice the missing flower of the boy, and then the credits just roll. Like, that last shot really makes no sense, because you're starting to wonder something. Is she still possessed, or is this going to happen all over again or something, or is it really that still? Like, they don't really expand on that well. It's kind of like they remember, right, we're still kind of a possession film, so I guess we gotta end with one last ghost or something, and not really resolve that, or not explain what that really means. Is she just seeing things now, or is she still possessed by this woman or something, or it's just a random plot hole? You didn't really need to end the movie like that, man. But shockingly for a Dark Castle horror film, other than that, it's one of the few to have kind of a definitive happy ending. Because Miranda and Chloe, they're freed and cleared of charges. And then, like, makes no sense last shot, though, when you have, like, this ghost boy about to be hit by a fire truck and then just disappearing. Kind of makes no sense. You don't need to end the movie like that. But I like it doesn't end on some downrighting bullshit, because that's a problem with a lot of these Dark Castle horror films. Like, I mean, 13 Ghosts, I think, doesn't end on one. Orphan doesn't end on... Orphan ends kind of decent, because at least Alistair gets killed at the end of that movie. And this movie, too, like, ends, like, much more definitive, though. So at least it didn't end like Ghost Ship. But they have a little... But there's a last shot you did not need to have. So, yeah. So, as much as I think Gothika's decent, it's not really a cinematic masterpiece per se, because it still does have problems. Like, the screenplay... Yeah, the screenplay's a bit of a mess. Like, the genre change is cool, but it's also the fact that it doesn't really know what it wants to kind of be. You start off with some pretension and excellent atmosphere, then by the end, it just fizzles out of control, and some of the shocks are meant to kind of jolt on, they don't really do much to cause fright, and they do sometimes feel like more of a distraction. And there's even times when it kind of feels like it's not really well edited. Like, there's scenes that are not really well-meaning to the plot. There's many cases that seem to really distract more than anything else. Like, right there... Like, there's this pool scene in the beginning you did not need to have. Probably just for Halle Berry fan service. You could have taken, like, the swimming scene out. Could have taken the last shot with the boy in the fire truck out. You could have did a little more with the character of Pete Graham. I'm not gonna admit about that. Like, even especially with the finale, like, you could have had Pete Graham aid Miranda. You really could have had these two both defeating Ryan. Like, I would have liked that finale better. But, well... So now, other than those problems I have with the film, Gothika... It's not bad. It's enjoyably fine. I really like it decently enough. Like, this was a film that's... I'd only saw it one time, so it's kind of hard to remember much of it. And just rewatching it now, and... It's just not a film I've really revisited in a very while. So it was interesting to revisit this. Like, the last time I saw this movie, it was like in high school. I think like over 11 years ago, I think. So I just remembered it now, after revisiting it, to get this review done. So in the end, Gothika, I'd say, it's more of a stream online, because while it is a good flick, it has a messy screenplay and some not super great editing that do hammer it down, so I would definitely just stream the movie. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review of Gothika, and for anything I'm going to rank Gothika, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you are a fan of all these actors and like the idea of a ghost-like crime thriller, then I would totally stream Gothika, because do keep in mind it has some messy editing and a messy screenplay that do hammer it down a bit. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Gothika, I'm going to give Gothika a 7 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my review for Gothika. Now, I want to know in the comments down below what you guys thought about Gothika, whether you love it, whether you hate it. And I want to... Hold on. Now, where did I put it? Like, oh, here it is. It was right beside me the whole time. Okay. Now, before I get started on the next, what I'm going to say with the next episode is, I want to show you guys a little something I got yesterday. I got me this. What is it per se? Well, it's a light you attach to the iPad that I use to record when I do my Takes a Trip series, or if I need some good lighting on. I need some good lighting on me to continue this series with the iPad because of the good quality I got with the Spirit Halloween vlog. So we have this. Want to see it turn on? Ta-da! And it does in modes. Yeah, like it does a few modes. It's a good little light. I gotta say, it'll be nice to see where I'm going, or it'd be nice to give me some good lighting. Like, good lighting when I need to, like, go, like, if it's, like, dark, like, I might be doing a Takes a Trip on Halloween night, so, yeah, like, I'll probably go to a mall Halloween night, so I'll do a Takes a Trip series there, my Chucky costume. Now, with that being said, now we get on to what our next episode is going to be. Our next episode, we're going back to Pinhead for his third outing. Yep, Hellraiser 3 will be the next episode. So until then, guys, that will be it for this episode. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.